I was going to a motel late at night. I'd finished a case in another state, finished a trial, made my way to where I had to be for the next morning's trial, and I checked in a nice motel, fairly new. Young lady at the counter checked me, and I said, I got to be down to the courthouse at 7 o'clock. It's about 3 in the morning. And I went up to my room, and something happened in that room I will never forget. It's the only time it's ever happened. I walked in this new motel room, and my room had no running water, none. No water in the sink, none in the commode, none in the shower, no running water. So I called down to the front desk, and I told that young girl at the counter, I said, hey, my room has no running water. She said, I know. And when she said, I know, that ticked me off. I said, what do you mean you know? She said, well, I can't explain it, but it's the only room in the whole place with no running water. And it wasn't going to be your room, it was another guy's room, but he was so mad about no running water, we gave him your room and you this room because we thought maybe you weren't coming because you were so late. That's all I needed. I said, young lady, to call you stupid would be to defame the word. You're way beyond stupid and dumb. I said, you owe your mother an apology for the day you were born. And I just laid her, the words just kept coming. I sat in the seat of the scornful big time. Finally, after a couple minutes, I said, you still there? She said, yeah, I'm still here. I said, you got anything to say? My voice is just dripping with contempt. She said, well, since you asked, I got one thing to say. I said, what's that? She said, I go to a Bible college where you come preach every year. I said, hey, you knew I was kidding, right? I mean, I don't need water. Who needs water? By the way, you want to know how good a Christian you are? What does it take to make you gripe? That's as good as you are. That's as good as I am. Do you understand? The promise, whatever we do will prosper, is conditional on us doing the 3 things in verse 1. Ooh. She said, Brother Gibbs, I don't have hardly any money, but I pray for your ministry every day, and every month I send a few dollars because I believe in what you're doing. And she started sobbing. She said, I'm so sorry I failed you. I could have died. I went down to that front desk, literally got on my knees. And I said, listen, what I did to you, I'd never want somebody to do to my wife or daughter. I broke God's heart. I sinned. She said, no, it was my fault. No, I said, it is not your fault. By the way, it doesn't matter what someone else has done. You're to command with love, and your speech is to be always with grace. Those are Bible commands. Wow. Next morning, she went to court with me. Sat there for most of the day. About a year later, I'm at her home church. Walked in her church on a Sunday morning like this one, and I met her pastor in the vestibule. And he said, you know, a girl in our church said she met you at a motel where she was working. I said, how about that? I mean, you know, sometimes you just try to play stupid, right? Let me see if I can just get out of this. I said, where was this now? And I said, what'd she tell you? Well, just how much she loves you and what a thrill it was to go to court with you and how she loves praying for you. I said, that's all she said? He said, yeah. I said, preacher, let me tell you what I did to her. And I told him the whole story. She didn't tell you any of that? He said, no. He said, Brother Gibbs, when you told her you owe your mother an apology for the day you were born, she doesn't know who her mother is. She was abandoned on the street, barely survived. She has no idea what her birthday is. She doesn't know who her mother or father are. She doesn't know where she was born. They found her in a dumpster. She has nothing except Jesus. And she never complains. Never. I said, Pastor, I want what she's got.